Now we're going to talk a little bit about the chain hoist. On this particular plow or older plow, you probably may still have some of these on your lot, but basically it consists of the chain, and this is the part that lifts the plow. You need to make sure that your chain and all your pins and connectors are in good shape. This particular hoist assembly they choose is probably one that you might still be using, but you shouldn't, because it doesn't allow you to secure the chain. We can't really demonstrate on this one, but if this chain was long enough, on this particular arrangement using the parts that are available, this chain really ought to come through here. Reason being is you can lock your chain in. You need that when you're carrying your plow, when you're lifting it. Regardless of which angle you go, you need the chain secure so that it lifts your plow up level. It's important to do that because then when you drop your plow or when you're plowing, you don't have one side of your plow or the other on the pavement more than the other side. So you always want to transport your plow level and lower it and raise it as level as possible. But when we move to the other style of plow, we'll show you why that's important. So we've kind of talked about this style of plow, its features, how it works, how you adjust it, and now we're going to turn our attention to the plows that we're buying now, the newer plows, and we're going to talk about its features and how you adjust it and how it works. As you can tell, some obvious differences right now that this plow is smaller. As you can see, it's probably about half the size of this plow. They've also sharpened up the curve on it. There's several reasons for that. One, it's lighter, so there's going to be less downforce on the plow. The blades are going to last longer. The curve is much tighter. It's going to throw the snow and the debris differently. It's most likely not going to get on your windshield like this other one probably did. It adjusts similar, but there are some differences, and then we're going to go through that here in just a second. But first, we're going to talk about the blade and how it's connected and how it works. One thing that I want to point out here is how the cutting edges are attached to the plow. I told you before on the other one that the mold angle was welded to the plow. On all these newer plows, it's bolted. So it provides, if it gets worn out or damaged, it can be changed out a whole lot quicker. The cutting blades are still bolted, but as you can see, this particular cutting blade is a rubber blade, and we're going to talk about the differences of it here in just a second. But another difference here, and this one's not quite angled right, but you'd want this particular blade cutting edge is set up to be 90 degrees to the pavement. And when we talk about the difference in this blade, we're going to get into that as to why. But you still have to adjust the plow. We'll show you how to adjust that to counteract that and make sure you have it working right. I just want to take a minute or two and show you the difference in the blade for this plow. The major difference is the cutting part is rubber. It's bonded to a piece of steel that bolts to the mounting angle, but the crux of the blade is rubber. Now you say rubber, where you're in East Tennessee, it can't work, but I'm going to say it can. This is not the same kind of rubber that you remember back 20 years ago. This is a much stiffer rubber. It's got different characteristics. It withstands the heat a lot better, withstands the pressure. Plus, it has this ceramic insert. This ceramic insert also works to absorb heat, gives it some stability, still allows it to flex when you hit objects. This insert, this is actually the insert. It's just a cylindrical shape, but it goes in between the two pieces of rubber, and it's every 3 inches along this blade. It's a solid blade. And what this allows to do is as you hit objects on the pavement, it flexes. But it only flexes where you hit the object. The whole blade doesn't have to flex. So therefore, the idea here is you can still maintain contact with the rest of the blade with the rest of your pavement. They tell me it's kind of like the difference in a biplane and a fighter jet. The materials, the technology has come a whole lot further, and we can do just as much or more with this rubber blade. It save our equipment, it'll last longer, it's lighter, and I think as a driver, you'll definitely see some differences in it. As with the other plow, you still need to do your pre-trip inspection. And really, there's not a lot of difference. The plow is still hooked to the truck. You still got hydraulics to do everything. It's just more of it. So as you start your day out, you still want to check all your bolts. You want to check all your connections. You want to check your hoses and make sure there's no obvious signs of leaks or damages, that they're all in good shape. You want to check all your pins for everything, for your lifting cylinder, your arm. You want to check your chains. You want to check all the pins on your plow. Here again, there's a few more of them. Here again, these are all visual signs that you ought to be able to see. One of the difference when this particular plow versus the one I showed you previous, this is a hydraulically powered swivel. In other words, if you want to change from the right lane to the left lane, you can do that in the truck. You can just by activating your hydraulics, you can swivel the plow. So with that, you've got more cylinders, you got more hoses you need to check. You'll still have to get out and adjust your chain when you do so, but it's much easier. You can do it quicker, and you can switch lanes and be going and much faster, much more efficient. Another difference in this plow is the trip springs. I pointed out on the other one there was the single spring there you need to check. On this particular plow, in beefing it up, there's 3 of them now. As you notice, you can see the springs. It's much easier to check and visually make sure that nothing is broke, but they essentially work the same. You still have you need to check all your pins to make sure they're there. And I will point out from the factory, they're going to come with a roll pin. Hopefully you don't have to change them or you don't have to adjust it. But if you do, there's certainly nothing wrong with changing to a hinge pin. But here is where you would adjust the angle on this one. What needs to be done is these pins taken out and moved down. In this bracket, there's actually 3 holes to adjust the angle. So you simply pull the pins, lift up on the plow a little bit, and adjust it. They also allow you to adjust on the back side, change the angle of the spring if you wanted it to be stiffer. You as a driver, that's up to you with your supervisor. But those are some different features about the trip spring. And it's important to note that you never want to chain the plow so it can't move. You want it to be able to trip. That's vital. Otherwise, you could get hurt, mess the truck up, mess the plow up, because you're going to hit things. You're going to hit manhole risers. You're likely to hit a curb. You're going to hit things. You're going to hit bridge ends. You want it to move, so you don't ever want to fix this plow where it can't move. So that's vitally important. And now we're going to talk about the chain and adjusting it on this particular plow.